The nostalgia and charm that original films had can never be replicated today, but sometimes modernizing these timey old tales actually gives us amazing gems to gush about. Sure, they're not exactly like the original, but when filmmakers put their own spin on them, they become something more unique. In this video, we'll talk about 10 film remakes that were better than the original, so stick around till the end to know our picks. Starting off with number 10, we've got West Side Story. This one's for you Shakespeare girlies. Loosely based on Romeo and Juliet's epic romance, the original version of West Side Story was actually a Broadway musical in 1957. But then, the original creator of the musical, Jerome Robbins, had his eureka moment and joined forces with the renowned director Robert Wise to translate the story onto the big screen. The two collaborated on the project together and turned the award-winning play into a successful film adaptation that won several Academy Awards, including Best Picture. Now, Steven Spielberg's 2021 adaptation of West Side Story takes the tragic love story to another level. By casting people of Puerto Rican and Latino descent, Steven championed diversity, allowing people to actually relate to the characters because of the accurate representations. In fact, the remake ended up becoming so successful that Rachel Zegler, who played Maria in the movie, ended up becoming the first actress with Colombian roots to win a Golden Globe for Best Actress in a Musical. Talk about one successful remake. Up next at number 9, it's Little Women. There's nothing quite like Louisa May Alcott's Little Women, and it looks like many producers and directors agree too. The classic American novel has seen many adaptations over the years, and if you've been a fan of the March Sisters growing up, then you must have definitely seen Gillian Armstrong's 1994 adaptation starring Winona Ryder. And while nothing, and we do mean nothing, beats the original, it'd be a lie to say that Greta Gerwig's 2019 film isn't a strong contender in the running for best remakes of all time. If you've seen the recent adaptation, you'll notice a lot of creative liberties Gerwig took with the film, while still maintaining the essence of the original narrative. And perhaps one of the greatest achievements of Greta's version of the film was no doubt making Amy a likable character, though we think much of the credit for that goes to our Queen Florence. Following up with It, Chapters 1 and 2 at number 8, while most of us know of It the movie, the Stephen King horror novel was actually first turned into a TV miniseries all the way back in 1990. Rumor has it back then, the screenplay was around 215 pages. And Tommy Lee Wallace had to take out many key subplots to maintain a 3-hour runtime, so when the novel was set to become an adaptation again, in order to avoid condensing the 1,138-page novel into one film, it was decided that the movie adaptation would have 2 chapters, with each part focusing on a different time period of the story. This allowed for the first film to focus on the Losers Club first encounter with It in 1989, and the second to center on them as adults returning to Derry in 2016. The reason this remake's better than the original is because of how it gave time to the characters to have more depth. It stretched the story to make sure the story had a flow to it, and that's why this takes our number 8 spot. Coming in hot at number 7, we've got Casino Royale. With over 27 Bond films and 7 actors playing the titular role, the James Bond franchise gets an epic reboot every time with a new face. As we got to see different actors put their own spin on the iconic Secret Service agent, it's pretty clear how the style of the movie has evolved over the years too. But God, there's just something about Daniel Craig's debut in 2006's Casino Royale that takes the cake for us. Technically speaking though, Casino Royale was originally a comedy film in 1967, but the 2006 classic gave a more brooding vibe to the suave character, reinventing the modern-day action spy era for us. So yeah, while we do appreciate a couple of comedic one-liners here and there, a brooding Bond for us is the best Bond. Now for our pick number 6, it's none other than Dune. Just like adapting Stephen King's It was a gargantuan task, Frank Herbert's Dune was no different either. The novel itself is 412 pages worth of detailed science fiction weaved with lore and politics, and while David Lynch tried to adapt the essence of the novel in his 1984 film with Kyle MacLachlan, Sean Young, and Sting, there's just something about the 2021 adaptation that still has us hyped. Just like it, Denis Villeneuve realized how important it was to divide the story into 2 chapters, and of course, given how cool technology's gotten today, the dazzling imagery coupled with CGI and green screen certainly took the remake to a whole other level. Hang in there, guys, we're halfway through our top 5. Moving on to number 5, it's the sci-fi classic, The Thing. The Thing from Another World was the best science fiction film of its time considering the limited technology in 1951. Now, obviously back then, showing shape-shifting on screen was a tedious task, and that's where the film handled The Thing so brilliantly. It resorted to other more creative ways of doing that instead of actually showing the thing. But as technology became more advanced in 1982, John Carpenter was able to show the thing in all its shape-shifting gore and glory. Combining practical effects and makeup artist Rob Botton's awesome prosthetic skills, The Thing's another remake that's high on our list. Not to mention The Maltese Falcon at number 4. We know there are a lot of behind-the-scenes fact about this one, but it still blows our minds to think that the Maltese Falcon that we've seen only came out because there was another version of the film that couldn't get re-released. Originally made in 1931, The Maltese Falcon was sort of the pre-coded film that didn't actually get released because of new restrictions on a racy subject matter. To avoid flushing the project down the toilet, the studio then put on a comedic twist to Dashiell Hammett's story. Fortunately though, John Huston ended up getting the material to mark his directorial debut and brought on a stellar cast like Humphrey Bogart and Mary Astor to helm one of the greatest film noirs that definitely surpassed its predecessor. Let's talk about number 3, Cheaper by the Dozen. Inspired by the autobiographical novel of the same name, the 1950 comedy film was actually a movie adaptation of the real-life Gilbreth family. And while there were a lot of reflections of the actual family in the original, the 2003 remake by Sean Levy strayed a bit away from the autobiographical inspirations, and instead it focused on its own fictitious family, the Bakers. Not only was the fresh take on the family the reason why the remake was such a hit, but thinking about the epic performances of Steve Martin and Bonnie Hunt is still the definition of comedy for us. And get this, Cheaper by the Dozen's back again in 2022, this time with changing family dynamics depicting a mixed family and an interracial couple. We don't know about you guys, but these remakes just keep getting better and better. Now for our runner-up, we've got Freaky Friday. Okay, this one was a tough one. While both versions had their own charm, we think most fans would agree that their preference for either film has a lot to do with the generation they were born in. For example, the 1976 original with Barbara Harris and Jodie Foster as mother and daughter had its own quirks, but it became a bit too predictable in some places to fully unlock its comedic potential. On the other hand, the 2003 version with Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan captured the true essence of the early 2000s with a much sharper script and punchier performances. Last, but certainly not least, at number 1, it's A Star is Born. So this film's pretty unique if we're being honest. It's not a direct adaptation of any book or any other source material, but it's still been remade 3 times in the US alone. Now, each of these versions had a different version of the story. Like Freaky Friday, these adaptations seem generational too. In 1937, Janet Gaynor stole the show with her epic performance, while Judy Garland stole hearts left, right, and center in George Cukor's 1954 remake. The 1976 version with Barbara Streisand didn't hit the same though, to be honest, but every other version pales in comparison in front of the 2018 version of the movie. Bradley Cooper's directorial debut was in a league of its own and definitely gave the other versions a run for their money. That's a wrap for this video, you guys. What do you think about these remakes? Can you think of other ones that are better than their originals? Please let us know what you think in the comment section down below, and while you're down there, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, see you soon.